Right, hello guys, and welcome back to my second hunter build for the Edge of Fate expansion. And boy, have I got something spicy cooked up, because today we're focusing on the Arc Hunter kit. And historically, there's always been a solid Arc Hunter setup with each season previously, and well, the good news is that the Edge of Fate is no different. And I'd even argue that this is one of the most fun hunter builds currently available. So without further ado, let's get into it. And if you enjoy this type of content, then a like and subscribe is greatly appreciated, as it really helps to support the channel. So, the core pillars of today's build are the buffed and reworked Mask of Bacchus exotic helmet, the brand new Graviton Spike exotic hand cannon, and a host of perfectly tailored ability, mod, perk, and artifact choices. But let's do things one step at a time. In the Edge of Fate, Mask of Bacchus has been totally reworked to now provide the following benefits. After performing a light shift, you now gain a buff on the side of your screen that shares the same name and increases the damage of both your arc and stasis weapons by 10%. And furthermore, while the buff is active, any weapon final blow will provide a varying amount of class ability energy depending on your class stat. And in the clip you're seeing, I have 16 points in class, which is making it so it takes roughly 4 kills to fully refund my class ability energy. However, if I crank my class stat to 100, this now takes only 2 kills, which is a rather significant difference, and as such, we will be speccing heavily into the class stat going forward. But this is also beneficial for another reason. Each consecutive light shift actually stacks upon itself and improves the damage bonus provided with each and every stack, because by default, the arc mode of Graviton Spike deals 251 damage, then at the maximum 3 stacks, this now goes up to 334 damage, an overall 33.1% increase from base. And yes, the other half of this build is the Graviton Spike exotic hand cannon, and it really feels like this weapon and Mask of Bacchus were made for each other. It can literally cycle between both arc and stasis elements, the two that Bacchus just so happens to boost, thus fully increasing the damage of both halves of the weapon. And just as a quick summary, scoring either 3 final blows or 3 rapid precision hits with either the arc or stasis mode will overcharge the opposite with special effects. Arc allows you to summon 3 bolt charge lightning strikes on either kill or precision hits, and stasis causes an explosion and spawns a formation of stasis crystals, also on either kills or precision hits. Using both Bacchus and Graviton together is going to make it incredibly easy to spam your class ability, and it's here that the Arc toolkit comes in, because if you run Gambler's Dodge paired with the Tempest Strike aspect, every 2 kills you get, you'll be able to perform a light shift and thus recharge your Tempest Strike by simply shifting again, which in turn boosts Graviton even more, which in turn lets you perform more Tempest Strikes, and so on and so on. And that's the main loop. Use Bacchus to supercharge both our weapons and abilities, and then profit. Pair that with a perfectly tailored subclass setup, weapons, artifact perks, and more, and you have yourself an incredibly fun but effective build that I promise you won't want to take off. So let's begin by discussing our subclass configuration. Starting off with our super of choice, we have Gathering Storm. This super is very effective for shutting down large groups of adds or dealing heavy damage to a single chunky target. But to be honest, if you prefer either Arc Staff or Storm's Edge, then please be my guest. The super isn't as important. What is important is making sure you run Gambler's Dodge as your class ability, because this is going to allow your Bacchus dodges to fully refund your melee charge after performing them, which by the way will require you to have at least 70 melee stat if you want the full melee charge back. And also a healthy reminder that you no longer need to dodge near enemies in order to receive the refund. You can literally do it anywhere. After that, we're taking Combination Blow for our melee, then the Flux Grenade, which by the way is a seriously underrated grenade. A direct stick will deal 1500 damage, which is more than a default Touch of Flame fusion by the way, plus it also deals more damage to boss or mini-boss targets, where as you can see here, it deals 1734 damage to Carl, exactly 16% more. A very nice major killing addition to the build. For the aspects, we're of course taking Tempest Strike, as that's going to be our main offensive ability, and then for the second we have Flow State. Flow State is going to make it so defeating a jolted target makes you amplified, and Tempest Strike itself does apply jolt, so any kill with it will provide amplified, and furthermore, while you're amplified, your class ability recharges 200% or 3 times faster. So if there ever comes a point where you're out of combat and you've lost your light shift buff, then this will quickly allow you to get back to it in no time. Fragments wise, the first one we're taking is Spark of Resistance. This is simply going to provide us with a free 25% damage resist from all sources when surrounded by 3 or more enemies, perfect for some extra survivability. Next we have Spark of Amplitude. This is simply going to make it so scoring a double kill while amplified spawns an Orb of Power, which again is going to help with survivability and feeding our upcoming armor mods to ensure they're always up. For the third, we have Spark of Frequency. This is going to make it so melee hits, including Tempest Strike, increase weapon reload speed, and while amplified, we gain increased stacks of Bolt Charge from all sources. And the Bolt Charge itself will primarily come from the passive effect provided by Tempest Strike, where defeating jolted targets grants a stack of Bolt Charge, but our final fragment, Spark of Discharge, also helps with this. Spark of Discharge will make it so scoring 3 final blows with an arc weapon spawns an ionic trace, and collecting it grants bolt charge, of course on top of the ability energy that it also provides. So that about does it for our subclass, so let's dive a little deeper into our stat distribution. I wouldn't be surprised if you've somewhat pieced it together already, but because this build focuses heavily on melee and class ability interactions, your first priority should be to get 100 class, since that'll make it so weapon kills while light shift is active return the highest amount of class ability energy. And subsequently, you also need to be running at minimum 70 melee in order for your light shift dodges to fully refund your Tempest Strike, but after that, I've chosen to invest 80 points into super along with a super font on the helmet to effectively put my super stat at 100 whenever I'm holding armor charge, therefore maximizing its regeneration rate. Then I've also invested 70 points into grenade so that the cooldown of my flux grenade is at a decent level, but to be fair, you can totally ignore this stat and instead pour more into class and go above 100 so you can start to dip into the overshield benefit. But it's totally up to you. And to recap, I found that a solid spread is 100 class, 80 super, 70 melee, and 70 grenade. But if you prefer to run anything different, then do let me know by leaving a comment down below. Moving on to the weapons and artifacts section, I first want to add a few more details on Graviton Spike, namely how I would recommend you craft it for optimal performance. And side note, can you believe that Graviton Spike is literally the only craftable weapon across the entire expansion? It's crazy how the crafting landscape has changed so drastically since its inception in the Witch Queen. But anyway, my roll has fluted barrel, tactical mag, textured grip, the highest upgraded intrinsic, that being temporal manipulation 4, and then the temporal alignment catalyst, which is actually the most important piece. Temporal alignment makes it so overcharging both arc and stasis modes grants a period of increased damage, and in-game this can be visible by the timer at the bottom of your HUD, which initially starts at 15 seconds and turns out to be a rather nice 20% damage increase to the damage of both modes, which is refreshable, all for just using the gun how you're supposed to. And actually, if you factor in the damage boost from maximum Baccharis, temporal alignment, and a single weapon surge for both arc and stasis, with everything rolling, your Graviton Spike is going to be dealing 75.7% more damage. Besides Graviton though, having a decent major burst option in your kinetic slot like the brand new Mint Retrograde Rocket Pulse is a great idea, so I'd highly recommend it if you have it. As for the artifact, because Graviton Spike is partially a stasis weapon, it makes sense that we take the majority of the stasis focused mods, starting with one with Frost in column 2. All it's going to do is make it so while Frost Armor is active, stasis weapons gain increased reload speed and stability, which just helps to improve the feel of the weapon. Then to actually get the Frost Armor, we'll be needing Fever and Chill in column 3. Fever and Chill states that rapid precision hits with stasis weapons grant Frost Armor, which does work with Graviton Spike, but the part it doesn't tell you is that multi-kills count for this too, and they don't need to be precision. Simply scoring at least 3 rapid kills will continue to increment your Frost Armor count. While we're here, you may as well take Frost Renewal. This perk will make it so while you have Frost Armor, taking critical damage emits a freezing burst that also grants Frost Armor. So this is mainly here as a survivability tool should you end up getting Red Bar. But in truth, it won't proc terribly often, but it is nice to have regardless. Finally, in column 3, you'll also be needing Refresh Threads to make it so picking up an elemental pickup matching your subclass element grants energy to your least charged ability. So whenever we collect Ionic Traces, we'll just be getting slightly more energy returns. The last 2 perks we'll be needing are Shield Crush and Frigid Glare, the former of which will make it so whenever you're amplified, your grenade recharges 25% faster and deals 25% more damage, which does indeed work with the Flux Grenade, making it deal even more damage to Carl, 2168 in fact, which is pretty insane for a single grenade. Then Frigid Glare will make it so while Frost Armor is active, Stasis Precision Final Blows emit a freezing burst. And again, you won't be seeing this terribly often, but it is indeed a very noticeable effect once you can actually activate it. Expect to see this in some upcoming stasis builds I'm planning. Now let's move on to set bonuses and armor mods. And truthfully, this build functions perfectly fine on its own without the need for any additional armor set bonus, and also there aren't many that mesh well with it for the time being. However, I did find a rather silly interaction with the 2-piece bonus for the Bushido set, which reads, final blows with freshly drawn or reloaded weapons heal you. And oddly, this actually works with the alt reload function from Graviton, where it switches between arc and stasis mode. For some reason, it counts as a reload for the purposes of the Bushido bonus, since you can clearly see I'm getting healed after getting a kill after switching modes, albeit not by much, but it works. And given that you are going to be swapping modes fairly frequently, then why not have this? It's a fun little interaction that could save your life. As far as your armor mods are concerned, starting with the helmet, we're taking 1 super font to increase our super stat by 20 points, then both arc and stasis siphon, so both halves of Graviton are able to make orbs on double kills. For the gloves, we have 1 copy of Heavy Handed, so Tempest Strike kills create orbs, 1 arc loader, and 1 copy of Impact Induction. Chest piece is, say it with me now, general resist mods like always. Then for the boots, I've actually gone for 1 stasis surge and 1 arc surge to boost both halves of Graviton by an additional 10% damage, then recuperation for some more health on orb pickup. Finally, Finally, on the class item, we have time dilation to improve the length of our fonts and surges, then powerful attraction so our light shifts hoover up all the orbs we create, and Reaper to make more of them. As far as the optimal gameplay loop is concerned, there are two key things to be aware of. One is to remember you don't need to be near enemies for your light shift to give your melee back, and two, remember to use your melee as often as possible, because provided light shift is active, you're getting it back every 2 kills. So definitely take advantage of that fact and spam your Tempest Strike as often as you can. Furthermore, make sure to save your Flux Grenade for any beefy targets, but besides that, just have fun with it. I really mean it when I say this is one of the most fun hunter builds I've ever had the pleasure of making, so I hope you enjoy it as much as I do, and maybe leave a comment telling me that you do. As always, there will be a dim link at the top of the description for you to copy the build hassle-free, and the fashion I used is also visible on screen if you want to copy that too. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the build, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now, dear viewer.